We are live. We are live on the internet. We're on the internet. Hello, Sanjana.
Hi.
We're on the internet. We're also in
We're on the
reality.
internet.
We're in reality. We're on the internet. And there's going to be a moment of awkwardness while I go and get the link.
Yeah.
Because reality doesn't get perceived as edited until it's been edited. And
True.
even deeper, when you're the person who does the editing, you experience reality 3 times because you get the reality of the actual moment happening, and then you get, and that middle one of editing is usually hundreds of times. Like I've had, editing is so tedious. And then you get the moment where the people see the finished product. Right now, though, we got that awkward moment.
iMessage the thing to me so I can just copy that.
I am working on it. I am sending it to you right now. Kaboom. This
influency stuff.
This conversation is going to be entitled, "What is Intelligence?"
Featuring Zakery, Winchester, and Sanjana Singh. Copy. No. What the fuck is this app?
What the fuck is this app? What is the application of reality?
Hey guys, so me and Zakery are live on YouTube. So if you guys want to check out the live stream, click here.
That was so sincere. All right. So we're going to be talking about intelligence and what it is.
Yeah. Just waiting for it to upload and
you're waiting for intelligence to upload?
Intelligence can be uploaded if there's an artificial intelligence system. We're trying to do that with artificial general intelligence. Like right now, what we have is what you would call narrow deep intelligence. No, sorry, narrow deep AI. And narrow deep AI is like your Siri, image detection, all of those kinds of things. But it's not strong. So when we are able to get to artificial general intelligence, we would be able to simulate our human intelligence onto an artificial sentient. So it's not sentient in the sense it being alive, but intelligence being encoded in an artificial machinery or source. Yeah.
And one day we get to the question of, okay, what differentiates us from the it? And I think that answer is either not going to be an answer, or the answer is going to upset people. I think it's going to bruise people's egos when they realize that this thing that we hold so sacred, which is so sacred, dare I say even divine, I think it's the most magical thing imaginable. Consciousness and the experience of you being you, existing as you. That when it really comes down to the nuts and bolts of what's different from that, other than an artificial intelligence and artificially generated intelligence, what is the difference? I think that I do observe that. I think it comes down to, well, there's you got like biological, like wetware stuff. You got wetware stuff, and this one doesn't have to have wetware stuff and have to deal with wetware problems and wetware benefits. There's benefits to having wetware.
There it is.
I like eating food. I like doing. There's several things about being a creature that I'm for. I'm here for it for a while.
I'm here for it.
But what if,
So, what is intelligence according to you?
according to me, what I think intelligence is, I have this thing that I say that but this is kind of like a pithy, benevolent propaganda sort of thing, which is that kindness is intelligence and intelligence is kindness. And that's just my way of saying that there's a subjective opinion in there, and I'm admitting it, but also an observation that I think like I think it would be good for us to understand intelligence and kindness to be synonymous. It's not intelligent if it's not kind. It's not kind if it's not intelligent. And kind is different from nice. Kind, we're talking like kindness is, oh man, that's a whole podcast. Wow, what? But I think that as we become more intelligent species, we will become kinder in the way our systems work, our behavior, obviously the individual chaos fractal of there is a city of 1 million people. Some of them are doing wild shit. That's always going to be a thing. And I don't want that not to be a thing. I mean, there's some instances where it's like, God damn it, humans. Holy shit, humans. If you want to keep going to, all right, hold on. There's that's a dark labyrinth trail that I could go down. That's bookmarked. Perhaps we could go down that later. But intelligence, I mean, simply put, the application, I would say. But you, because I actually want to define intelligence for myself henceforward with your model. I trust your mind. You've got a mental model for intelligence, and I would like to get right into that.
So, from what I got from your model of intelligence, is that you take kindness and intelligence together. So, you're basically taking something which is very constructively logic with something which is affective. So, affective is kindness, and logically put, intelligence. My model, however, is something that I would call C3. And C3 is basically your capacity for abstraction, your capacity of comprehension, and your capacity for connection. So, capacity of connection is basically when you take two or three or multiple theories together and you're able to connect them in a very creative way. The second one is abstraction, your ability to create abstract concepts. So again, creation, that's the essence of it. And the third one is your capacity to comprehend, your capacity to understand. So all three of them together is what comprises intelligence. So that's why I call it C3 model of intelligence.
Okay, so there's somebody who's super intelligent at figuring out stuff, like our little problem, which I will invoke. You have a microphone that is not engaged right now, and we're both intelligent. I think we're pretty smart. I think you're pretty goddamn smart. And we want that microphone to be the microphone that your audio is going through, yet we're not figuring it out. There are people who are so good at figuring out technical problems. They're just gonna. If there's a way, they're gonna. I know people like that, but they don't do the thing that I do, where they have a myriad of concepts in their mind and find a way to connect them in a way that is sometimes helpful or pretty, poetic or funny. And my brain is doing that all the time. And so somebody might be like, you're intelligent. Oh, it's so intelligent that you took that thing and made it relate to this thing in a way that made me feel inspired. But when it comes time for certain technical things, I'm useless. But I
We
could
need
learn.
technicians. We need people who are good with computer science and mechanical engineering, and even information technology, so that they can, just take all of these things and make better models for microphones or cameras or even computers. So, like, how we have for gaming, specifically Alienware laptops, so they have, better capacity for you to game. Then we have, what you would call MacBook Air, which is better for students. So they have the capacity of making products which are suitable for particular kinds of people.
We've got
And they're good at it, and they're good at it, and that's why we can get this microphone here fixed, hopefully.
Donatello's. Are you familiar with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Sanja?
Am I familiar with what?
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
Donatello does machines.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a party dude. There is another turtle who is a party dude, who knows how to socialize, how to be a socialite, who knows how to make light, like Tim Dillon, for example, sweetest boy. There are thousands and thousands of people who are experiencing less anxiety and depression because that man knows how to talk about what's happening in a way where it's like soothing in this weird way that no one understands. And that's what I'm getting really interested in. The weird ways that we don't understand, but it works. There's so much stuff like that.
And he has a very good way of like delivering his comedy and humor. It seems quite realistic. Like if you watch, I mean, I watch all of his episodes. They're just hilarious. So what I like about him is that he would take all of the current news or whatever is happening in the world and make a hilarity out of it, but in a way that it's so laughable, but at the same time it gets to the people who are listening to it. So he's making some sort of a logical humor there, and it is perfectly delivered, and that's why people love Tim Dillon so much.
I wonder if we could really map and understand that one day. But I almost would not want to see comedy and humor scienced, to
Mhm.
like, what is the thing where something is burdening your nervous system? There's a topic that is burdening your nervous system. And then there's a way for another talking creature person to put words together in such a way and with a sincere angle, because it's not just like the words in the right order. Because like with stand-up comedy, it's like that just written down would not have that effect on me. But anyway, this thing with this word said in the right way with the right inflection and the right timing unlocks where suddenly I'm less in pain with my burden of truth and more able to help. That's the important part. Well, no, the important part is alleviation of pain as well. But like, people can work on problems a lot better when they're not twisted up in the suffering of them. And comedy is like the magic trick that for some.
Yeah, I would call it like comedic intelligence. So, of course, comedians go on like they do stand-ups all the time, and they do have certain jokes in their head. But most of the time, they're also doing improv, right? So that also kind of like requires some sort of an intelligence. Like, how can you make jokes on the spot within a given audience? So, comedians that generally have, of course, a good sense of humor, but they also have what I would call comedic intelligence. Because without that, without the capacity to create, again, another component of intelligence, there wouldn't be an improv. So comedians, in a sense, are also intelligent in a way.
And they're emotionally intelligent in a way. And emotional intelligence, that's pretty new on the scene as a concept, right?
Yeah,
When was that phrase first uttered?
I don't know, probably like late 19th century from some psychologist, maybe William James. Not sure entirely though. But emotional intelligence has now become a part of what I would call pop psychology. That, what is emotional intelligence? Are you emotionally intelligent? So, are you capable of handling your emotions in a very intelligent manner? That, whenever you're delivering those emotions, that they are structured and logical. But I don't like that. I have a problem with emotional intelligence. Yes, you should be emotionally intelligent. You should be able to contain your emotions, but at the same time, it shouldn't be that structured and logical, which could be the subparts of what you would call emotional intelligence. I think everyone is emotionally intelligent because everyone has intuition, right? And when you have intuition in combination with what you would call emotions, both of them have this kind of reactionary effect, which is basically that both of them aid each other. So emotion and humor, completely different things. But when you take emotion and then intelligence, they both are having this reactionary effect where emotion is helping intelligence and intelligence is supporting emotion. So emotional intelligence therefore could be this kind of intelligence where you're listening to your intuition in a way that you're able to comprehend as to what kind of emotion you're going through and what kind of emotion you can display.
So it's the ability to make conscious choices as opposed to just observe, react.
Exactly.
And so is that intelligence? Is it like the CPU that you bring to bear in your decision making? Is that
It could be like intuitive intelligence, right? Because intuition is how you get to basically detect emotions in another person. And as soon as you detect emotion in another person, there's a process, which is, oh, what does this emotion mean? Where is this emotion directed towards? Is it directed towards me? Let's say, take a hypothetical example, right? This is a person, and he, she, they, them, whatever, are mad at me right now. So my intuition is already detecting that this person is mad, that the emotion here is mad. That is my intelligence telling me that this is mad in connection with intuition. So intuition comes first, then comes detection, and then comes the intelligent part, which is how can I react to this in a instinct way.
And then, I mean, I'm really curious about the experience of the humans who don't feel compelled to express as I do. And so they're just like this experience of being this scout organism. Like, that sounds lovely. I mean, I'm not like asking for my voice to be taken away or something like that. Like, I think of that as being a rather nightmarish scenario. But to completely subtract the entire part of experiencing a day that is my decision making apparatus and experience and the time and just all decisions of what to say, and to just instead be observing, absorbing, and processing and understanding. There'd be so much more understanding, you know? And that way back to emotional intelligence, like, I fucked up. recently with that. I mean, if you have a social day, you fail a bunch across the day with moments of, and they could just be little things. Yeah, if you have, I mean, at my job, I probably had a bunch of where it's like you misread, and your intention, your aim was to follow what someone said with an expression of, I understand that and relate, and now I further the connection by giving you this relatable thing that we agree upon, and it doesn't do that. The intention is further bonding.
So you could say that there's a phenomenology in play, which is study of experience, right? So let's say I'm having a conversation with this person right here, and this is an experience in itself, and there's a causal relation happening. The cause being whatever I'm saying, the effect being the response of this person. So one could argue that even with emotional intelligence, there's a particular phenomenology with causal relation and also time. But that would be too abstract. Time would be too abstract. So one could say emotional intelligence is in play. The phenomenological experience is what is encapsulating this particular moment where emotional intelligence is being played. And there's a causal relation which is inducing effect within the person that I'm talking to.
And so when one fails to produce the but because now that's when you think of it meta, now that's what it is to sound. We would describe that as sounding robotic, to say the thing I said did not have the desired effect. It did not produce the result that I wanted. That you're supposed to just be this sincere human that's happening, right? Like I mean, we're all saying we like that. We want you to be real. We want you to be you, to be authentic. And that would be to have less of this meta echo chamber conversation in your head of your self-awareness, your tereception, your, how unintelligent is it to be always thinking about yourself?
I mean, I think it's part of the human condition that we think a lot. I mean, going back to what you were saying about having the mind cluster and the way of approaching. I mean, there's always a persona, right? That we're always representing. So you take Freud or you take Jung or Lacan or whoever, any kind of psychoanalyst, they would say that as soon as we meet another person, there's a persona that we have, so we have another character, and as soon as we're alone we have another character, so we all live double lives. The first life being whenever I'm phenomenologically experiencing another person, or talking to another person, and then I have my persona, and then when I'm alone I have another persona, which is me by myself. So there's an experience going on here.
An unfolding experience. Back to the scout thing. If I could scoutify, if there was, I think maybe there already is this, but I'm imagining a drug, a consumable, exogenous thing I could take that would make it so for the next 3 hours I'm scout mode. I've got nothing to say. I've got nothing to think about what would be good to say. I've got no reason to strategize. I've got nothing but input, what I think about it, how it makes me feel. And stop right there. Not even the thinking about how it makes me feel. There's so much thinking about how things make me feel. Like that's what a lot lately. Like, what? Why that? Why now? Why directed that way? Why do I feel this way? And And a lot of the CPU, it goes towards that. Why do I feel the way I feel right now?
We can never know, right? Because emotions arise instantly. Like, you never know. I mean, of course, there's several factors, right? Let's say I'm walking in a park, and as soon as I'm walking in a park, there's a bunch of people, and I'm observing them, right? And so every human being that I am walking through, I look at them and instantly I make some sort of a judgment, you know, just some sort of a judgment as to what the person is, what's happening. And so, of course, but just by the observation, just by the phenomenological experience of observation, there's an emotion which is induced in the person. So one could also say that this emotional intelligence is usually triggered by an external factor, and that external factor being either a human or a substance or anything else. But in this park example, it is a particular human who's just passing by and you make a judgment. So judgment is also a part here when it comes to having an external stimuli.
External stimuli is my, dare I say, God lately again. I am on a kick that if I pay attention when, and I'm going to use a word here, it's just a word, but it's the word, it's my word, my relationship with it. When the divine is happening, pay attention. And and I perceive that when that's happening to be when I drop the reins. It also can happen. No, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, it's when I drop the reins. It's whenever the hands are way away from the wheel, and I am just observing as other. And I will say sometimes it's a human. Sometimes it's a landscape. Sometimes it's the grand totality of a whole story that happened. Sometimes it's a musical. When I'm observing that, it's like there are times I've like, by my definition, I am now in the presence of the divine, and I should pay the fucking attention. It is my intention to pay attention, and then attention happens and comes easily. But this thing of like struggling to pay attention, like the problem of the microphone, that's boring as fuck to both of us. Our dopamine goes and just thinking about it is like, oh God, just can't things just work? Can't the technology just be there and just be working so that we can do the thing where we talk? Paying attention to that is difficult. What's that? How does that factor into intelligence? Your ability to pay attention, because your ability to pay. I mean, if we're gamifying this, you're not very capable of doing what you want to do in the world if you can't decide where your attention goes and stays.
So one could say that, let's say, attention, right? And also emotional intelligence. So it could be a broader part of consciousness as we know it. So we're a conscious being. One of the factors of being conscious is, of course, attention, being conscious. And when you're conscious, you're paying some sort of an attention to a system. And that's where the emotional intelligence also ties up with it. Because without attention, we cannot detect the external stimuli out of which this emotional reaction is coming out of us. So this entire phenomenological experience that we're having with another person is coming out of our conscious mind, which has an attention component to it.
Paying attention in the arena of people's emotions, especially when it becomes a sensitive moment, is something that I find so direly important now. I should have realized how direly important it was, and how much it behooves me to be readily aware of that front of mind awareness, that it's like you could hurt somebody's feelings trying to have fun, or just not being careful enough, just like the paying attention to, but it's going to happen so much though, because that's what we do. We get out there and we get where we're going fast, doing a bunch of things, and then a moment happens that you are reminded that you're this conscious and subconscious lightning rod of emotional ups and downsies and sideways and all of this 3D graph spectrum shit of emotions. Like something can just be said that, why did that affect me in that way? And then,
emotional intelligence would also have some sort of a subconscious intention, right? So I'm interacting with this thing right here, and he's angry, right? And so my emotional reaction to this particular thing is also coming from my subconscious. So the subconscious and my conscious self, because this is triggering a response in me, and it's anger. So how do I tackle an anger emotion? Whatever the subjective relationship I have with this person, plus my conscious self, plus my subconscious self, just projecting it onto this particular person. So one could say that emotional intelligence is basically coming out of both your conscious self and your unconscious self, and your subconscious self, which is conscious and unconscious at the same time.
It's so weird to think and to see right now that my conscious mind is thinking about and strategizing as to how to get my subconscious mind to believe different stuff so we can have a happier reality. That's so weird.
But then you know what's even complicated? You take intelligence and you take cognition, right? So what would be the difference between intelligence and cognition according to you?
Application. Applying. Intelligence, when I think intelligence, I think of applied. So I think so, and I think of like intelligence agencies. Like they're not gathering all that data because they think it's interesting. It gives them goosebumps. They're collecting all of the data they possibly can so that they can strategize the next move or a thread, a direction of propaganda that will do this, that will push this way because we're trying to get this. It's all about application. They're the central intelligence application agency. And so when I'm scouting back to why I would love to take the scout drug, I would love that. I would love for there to be a drug that would make it so that I could choose to be on full scout mode. And when I did that, if I took that alone with someone, that means I really trust them. That means that I'm more or less, I will say a thing. You're just by definition of the God, you are deputizing them as God for a period of time. Your reality. Here you go. You're my reality. I'm not thinking about what I do in how I react to any of this. I'm just observing, absorbing, and becoming the experience of you. Whoa.
So for me, when I would say that intelligence is comprehension, creation, and connection, cognition, on the other hand, would be how you're able to synthesize that knowledge that you're gaining, but also how you are grasping all that information. So it's basically like cognition is your ability to intake as much information as possible. And then you transfer it into intelligence, which does the work of comprehending it. So people mostly, kind of conflate or interchangeably use intelligence, cognition, and sentience as the same thing. But they're not the same thing. Intelligence is creation, broadly speaking. Cognition is how much amount of information you can, just take in your brain. What was the third one that I said?
God damn it.
Sentience. So sentience is being. It is what Heidegger would call Dasein, to be, to exist. So I am sentient, you are sentient, right? And intelligence is both of our capacity to create. Cognition is both of our capacity to, accumulate as much knowledge as possible in our head. So that would be the correct, like definitions of all of these three things. So that's why you should never be conflated with each other.
So is it if someone is born and they are encouraged get from the gate to enact their will and express their thoughts and feelings, and they end up someone who has a lot to say about stuff and a lot to try to try to apply. And then imagine a baby that's born that's surrounded by parents and community, and everyone treats them as scout that is observing and learning and feeling and experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, like as much of the extremes of two of those. I mean, these are experiments that will probably will run someday when there's when you can just have like fully fleshed out artificial intelligences, just have this family and this community do it this way, like in a digital reality, or perhaps even just like with wetware androids. But I'm thinking of this experiment of like the baby is going to be these two babies are going to be born. One will be surrounded by, and the parents will be from the very moment that it enters of like, what do you have to say? What do you want to do here? Look at all this stuff that you can affect. And just like all the language is like, what are you going to do about it? What do you got to say about it? Who are you? What do you stand for? Um, and then the other baby is look at all this stuff. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Look at all this. Look at this world. Look at that. Look at that. Hey, look at that. And listen to what I'm saying now. Read this book. There's that. Everything is about input, and there's never anything said or encouraged and propped up in the child of this aspiration to affect anything. Just watch. You're here. Look at it. Listen. Feel it. Isn't it beautiful?
So Darwin said very famously that expressions are innate and they're universal. So, you were giving an example of a baby having a phenomenological experience of what is this, right? So they might have expressions, they might have happy, sad, angry, and we're all as humans, be it someone from Mexico, be it someone from some sort of a native Indian tribe, anything. If I smile, all of them are going to consider that, yes, I'm happy, right? So, same goes for the baby, right? Babies' facial expressions are innate in the sense that we're able to understand them universally. So, if the baby is smiling, we know it's happy. If it's crying, we know it's going through something. So, it's universal across all the sentience. So facial expressions and gestures are two things which are universal and innate. This is what Darwin was talking about.
And you get smarter at knowing what the little diagonal weird specific emotion, how those come across a person's face and body language, as you live more and as you see more circumstances where that could have been better. Oh man, here's my thing about that I think about the past. Can I go into the about my the thinking about the past? And I want to preface this by saying that when I think about when we talk about smart, as if you could You can measure someone's smartness. It's like, that one's real smart, but it's spending all of its time thinking about shit that is affecting nothing, and it's not doing what it could do. That person is not doing what they could do. They could be doing things, but instead they're fucking thinking. And the highest offender of this that I've ever observed is me. It's like, oh, I'm smart, right? I'm spending a lot of time thinking about things that I'm not, applying. Anyway, the past. How the hell would we know anything if not for there being a conception of and memory of the past? Like, so I've concluded, which is funny to say, I've concluded that the past is this component that needs to exist for the consciousness to have this experience where it knows some stuff. So the past being horrible is an embarrassing and sad and excruciating and fucking all of the negatives. Like, there's so much negative in the past. Good for now. Like, it is of the benefit of now that we have a conception of a horrible, nightmarish past. It's there, and what is the clearly bad choice is to stay with it, is to just like, the past is bad, so now is fucked. It's a bad choice. Now I don't know what the good choice is. I don't know what's the best thing to do with yourself having consciousness, let alone a human vehicle. Like, if you were just the consciousness, I don't know what should you be paying attention to. And then, holy shit, now you add in that you've got this human that can affect things. You could gain political power. You could be somebody's best friend. You could be a great spouse and parent. You could be a cool coworker. You could fix a thing. You could make a song. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what's the best thing to do with that. But I know it's not sitting and ruminating about how bad shit used to be. And I'm not talking, scope this, take this to the scope of an individual. Like, sitting in a room thinking about how horrible it used to be to exist as you when other circumstances were happening. That's a bad choice. I would like to help as many people as possible realize that that's what's happening, and then make a choice. And that is what I would say is to become conscious, to become. I mean, you're conscious if you're awake, but I think that what people mean when they say like a consciousness community is like, oh, that was very, the conscious used as this very positive adjective of like, it's like that the awareness got aware and made a choice instead of scouting a nightmare. You gotta get out of scout mode, it seems, to at least make the choice to get to the present, which could be great, the future, which could be amazing. And then there's the worrying about the future, but that's another subject. But I don't know if I had a point there. But the past,
so
yeah, go.
Imagine triplicity of time, right? It has beauty. Past, present, future, triplicity of time. Everything that we know that existed in the past is basically our memory, as we were talking about before. But then, way before, you were talking about how intelligent or how smart a person is, right? For that, we have this test called IQ. Although I don't really think that IQ is stable across all ages. So maybe if I take a IQ test when I was, let's say, 7 years old, it would have it would have its own unique number. But then if I take an IQ test when I'm 24 or 25, it's completely different, right? So intelligence kind of expands across our lifetime, and intelligence expanding all over time, is parallel to triplicity of time, because intelligence is also inherently involved with our memory. How can we recall a memory real quick? I did something when I was 5 years old, and what is my ability? What is my intelligent ability to recall what I did 5 years ago, or when I was 5 years old? So intelligence and typicity of time with memory are all tied up together.
Yeah. Man, the slipperiness of some memories and the stickiness of other ones. There is a drug that exists that does a thing with that. Can make everything nice and slick, so it just slips away down the drain, or just further away, so that you can swim away from it for a bit. What to do with the past is apply it, I would say, right? Like, and what to do, and I'll get societal now. What to do? What if we are to be an intelligent species? Which I would say an intelligent species doesn't annihilate itself. I mean, that would be stupid, because the way it would go down, the way it would be, this team is trying to win over this team, maybe not even necessarily eradicate this team, but win an argument. And the result is we're all vaporized. That's fucking stupid. That's stupid, dumb. That's fucking dumb. That's the definition of dumb. To destroy everything.
I mean, but one could also say that society works upon disruption, right? Like, you always have two forces clashing together. There are people who are, oh yes, save the planet. The other people are like just polluting it, and they would deny that climate change has been a thing. Same goes for COVID, right? Back in March 2020, when the pandemic hit and there was 3-month lockdown, everyone was crying, we need a vaccine, we need a vaccine, we need treatment options. Why are scientists not working so hard? Why are they even scientists if they cannot even produce a vaccine within this given time frame? Right after, when the vaccines come out, there are people who are taking the vaccines because they acknowledge that vaccine has an effect which could, get us rid, or sustain the COVID stimuli within us, so that we don't actually get affected. But then there's another group of people which are like, oh yeah, no, vaccines are harmful. It has XYZ ingredients which could fuck up our body and whatnot. So you always see two different forces, playing together, and that's where the society rests. Because if we have, two people, just everyone agreeing on everything, that's utopia, and you can never reach utopia. So utopia and dystopia work along with each other to kind of form the society as we know it. Because otherwise, the reality would be, I don't know, boring. If everyone is just agreeing with each other, and everyone's like, there's no dialogue, there's no Socratic dialogue, there's nothing. So society works upon disruptions. We always have these two forces.
I'm excited for you to experience the marketplace of ideas and people's sentiments around them of the United States of America, because we got a thing going on that is a microcosm of the question of, will the human species take to the stars, have a paradise loop, do cyborg stuff in cool, neat ways, or are we gonna fucking annihilate ourselves over an argument, over a disagreement about probably imaginary numbers, money, which imaginary numbers agreements about, but at the end of the day, imaginary number, are we going to, that would be stupid. So if the question is, are we an intelligent species? Are we intelligent life? Is there intelligent life in the universe? I would say the intelligent life gets past what we're at right now. But back to it. So the microcosm of the United States of America right now is that there's bifurcation, a political duopoly. That's the really fucked up part. I think that can be fixed, but there's two tribes. There's two extremities of. We put this thing on a binary linear spectrum: left, right, blue, red. And where it's clear that with any disruption and with any criticism, like, something gets better. So to have it might be a thing that still has some gems for us, to have things criticized by their equal opposite, and like really scouted, really analyzed and picked apart, and then like this could be smarter, or this is throw this out, this is flat dumb, and that, like, throw this out, this is dumb. Like I'm going back to the individual scope now. Like, the I'm gonna prove them wrong energy is like the strongest shit in the world. That's the most powerful motivator. I mean, it requires a conscious choice of, like, I'm not going to give up on myself, because, like, okay, so I got this external criticism or rejection, and instead of taking that as, well, I guess I suck and should die, it's like, I'm like, no, they're wrong. Let me prove it by becoming, that's the most motivating force, and it happens. You don't sign up for it, but when it happens, a gust of that can take you so far in life. Anyway, I see that with the left-right thing, the I'm going to prove them wrong. And you're bringing out the I'm going to prove them wrong energy. Like,
I mean, one of the problems we are facing right now is how we don't have Socratic dialogue anymore when it comes to left and right. Like, so having a Socratic dialogue is basically, I say something, I complete my argument, then you say something, you complete your argument. We're having disagreements, but we're being intelligible about having this discourse that we're having. We don't have that anymore. And the second problem is people often take facts and opinions and they interchangeably use those. So let's say I go on New York Post and I read an opinion editorial. And I think, oh my God, like the way this opinion editorial is saying is probably a fact. No, it's not a fact, it's an opinion. And when people look at facts, they're like, oh, this is an opinion. This is a problem of media at the moment that I wouldn't say we are, but most of the people are confused. Most of the people are confused as to what is a fact and what is an opinion. You can, the example of COVID, COVID information, the scientists out there who have opinions, ivermectin works, or that thing works. And if we use this medication, this could work. And then there's vaccine, which is considerably a fact. So again, if us as a common citizen, I come across treatment plans which are opinionated by renowned scientists, and then vaccine, which is factual and FDA approved. What should I choose? Is this opinion better than the fact? Is this fact better than the opinion? Is opinion this and is fact that? So that's the problem that we're facing. People are not able to differentiate or distinguish between what is a fact and what is an opinion. And that's why the right wing and the left wing politics is getting heated up, especially the far left and the far right.
Yeah, you got it, because there has to be a reminder. I thought that we've already had sufficient reminders of this, but you need to remember that you got to take violence off the table. Like, you can't communicate when it's understood that it's like, well, if I decide, though, I'm bigger than you and I have more efficient weaponry, it's not a conversation when one person has has the power. And so if you want a real Socratic dialogue, you want a real dialectic democracy to be happening, whether in a room with 3 people or a country with 330 million. Like, people can't negotiate their fucking relationships, man. It's like 2 people just have, all you got to do is, I mean, I don't want to make this sound like it's simple. That, let me back that up. It's, but I mean, coming from the meta, like, watch, just observing myself as a human outside of the experience of being a human. It's like, buddy, all you've got to do is fucking forget about what you're trying to enact for a moment. You have to fully go into scout mode to understand where this person is at, what they're thinking and feeling, and what they want. And then if you still want to, like, fight for your extremity, if this can be put on some binary spectrum of, like, they wanted this, I wanted this, then if you compromise, you really have you have to learn the full breadth of what this person thinks and feels and what they want. Try to get it and maybe narrow down as specific of what they would really want, which often is unknown to us because we're in scout mode, or
That's like intention and propaganda, right? Like, most of the time when people are talking, left or right, or just any two people are talking, there's always an intentionality as to what I'm trying to convey to this other person. Now, when we get this into a political sphere, in terms of left and right politics, we usually have intention attached to a propaganda. That propaganda doesn't have to be in a negative way here, but if I want to push forward that COVID case seems like the best way to describe it, that masks don't work. So there's an intention and a propaganda that I'm trying to convey to this person right in front of me. And then the other person has intention and propaganda not being a negative thing, but also being an influential thing, that, hey, actually, vaccines work. Actually, masks do work. So, we see intention and propaganda together. Same goes for information, misinformation and disinformation. So one could say that misinformation is something which is always present within our political scenario. But when it comes to intention and propaganda, there's usually disinformation involved, specifically in the political sphere. So we see intention, we see propaganda and disinformation being kind of incorporated into a statement, a dialogue, or whatever, in order to influence people. And then on the other hand, the other person is also using the same thing. Maybe it's only misinformation, maybe it's factual information. But there's always an intentionality. There was a French philosopher called Jean-Paul Sartre, and he would talk about intentionality a lot. That there's always intentionality behind things. And intention is very, very important when we have two people having a discourse. So intention, propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, normal information, all of these things are, kind of intrinsically connected to each other, specifically in a discourse, and specifically in a discourse that we have today.
it'd be great to see that, like, so earlier you said we don't have Socratic dialogue anymore, and I do disagree with you. I disagree with you. I disagree with the uttering of that spell, because there are people like ourselves. I think we could have a true dialectic. I think we could disagree on something and have violence be off the table and be like, all right, we're trying to get to a play, but and there's a lot of that out there. It's just not, it doesn't have the main stage and the mainstream. Maybe what I would love to see is the annihilation of, not in any violent way, just the removal of there being a stream that is main. There need not be a that. The main, the main stream of information, the main stream of art, when people are so different and so specific, in order for there to be a mainstream, it occurs to me that there would need to be an effort, like, and I don't know how deep that effort is, and I'm one of the less conspiratorial, paranoid minds amongst us. There would need to be some sort of actual conscious effort to get it so that people are lining up on something accessible and easy, and probably something that plays into our lesser knee jerks, like the compulsion to conflict, to define ourselves by who's wrong. I mean, and that shit's powerful. Like the nemesis thing that Eric Weinstein has talked about this, about like, have a nemesis. So, like this is a friend. This is actually a dear friend. This is somebody who's going to be in your life a lot, but they're kind of your opposite, and they fill you with inspiration to best them. And I think I have that or two, and yeah, but I think I lost my thread there, because I was thinking about it. I'm actually thinking about, and it actually, it need not be cordial. It need not be. I mean, I think it helps to be civic. It's safe to be civic. That's my. I'm the biggest reason why I'm anti, like. Well, I think that we should stop having violence as an option to communicate. And I would like to see that. That doesn't mean I fucking want it to be entirely removed, dude. I think if we could make it where mutual combat, mutually consented violence, I think humans will always kind of want that, and it's this beautiful thing that people are so into UFC for a reason. We've got these bodies, and we're going to administer them to cause maximum damage as a game. That's a riot. That's fun to watch, at least, because I don't want the thing where I get hurt and stuff. But anyway, civic, the biggest reason for being civic is safety. If I became a parent, if I become the father of a child, my level of fervorance and zeal for anti-violence, take it off the table, goes way up, because I'm not going to be involved in any of this shit where we're administering our humanly vessels to cause maximum damage to each other. I'm not going to be involved in any of it. And if you bring any of that shit near my kid, I'll hunt you in the spirit realms, like fucking like that is. So just get all of that violence shit the fuck away from me and my family, I'm pretty intense about it now, but like not nearly as much as I will be if somebody said when you have a child, you bring a hostage into this world. That's heavy. But yeah, if I would feel that way. If I had a kid, it would be like, all right, now seriously, stop with the fucking violence. But then you have to know that taking that tone, stop with the fucking violence, isn't gonna do it so much as intelligently bringing to bear all of your skills and your awareness of the past, and your emotional intelligence, and your cognition, and your just applied mentalism. Just do everything you can to bring peace. God damn it. Maybe I should be doing that right now. Maybe I should. I
should. Like, going back to Socratic dialogue, right? You and I are having a Socratic dialogue. What I meant by the lack of Socratic dialogue is basically within the political sphere. Like you get Trump and Joe Biden, like the presidential debate that you guys had. I was just like, what the? Like any one of these people are gonna drop dead any second. That's how old they are, and they're not having a Socratic dialogue because Trump keep on like interrupting that guy like this. That's not what a Socratic dialogue is. When you go to all of these major TV channels like CNN or Fox News, here in India we have Aaj or CNBC and Republic TV. You get like all of these politicians on and you get them to debate. That's not a Socratic dialogue because both of them are interrupting each other. So that's what I meant by lack of Socratic dialogue. Of course, there's people like you and I who are able to have Socratic dialogue, who are able to agree to disagree, but also agree to agree. But there's always going to be people out there who are trying to instigate some sort of a misinformation or disinformation, some propaganda intentionality in order to kind of break the Socratic dialogue, break the very essence of Socratic dialogue. So that's what I meant by that.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to put. I just had a revelation about old and what it is to say old as a derogatory, because as you just did with Biden and Trump. That in that if that footage will forever exist as two shitty old men. Old man, and it's not their age. It's like neither of those numbers. I've know people who have higher numbers than both of those two who are not old like that. They are an existence that is in the past, and of course it's causing the body to crumble. I wonder if that's the case. I wonder if that could be scienced one day. That it's like if you're existing entirely in a ruminative state of scouting the past, if you're in a loop of the past, that it causes you to age. It seems to make sense to me that it's like that in a not so subtle way says to the nervous system and the whole system, okay, shutting down, because we're not applying ourselves to the present and future. We're just doing this past thing. We're just like, and to have there be people who are, I definitely, and back that we're living in what will be the future's past, and I do think we will look back at now and we'll be like, we used to let people who were in a ruminative and archaic and dinosauric is one of the words that people have become popular lately to say of that, but like that the people that we were having fossil brained past problem propagators, making the problems of the past, let's make them the problems of the present and future. Let's keep that going. Just people are there's that we used to let old minds govern us. Fuck. But then again, there's a virtue to that, which is that the future, the unknown is chaos. The past is at least known, and so there's some things from the past. Like I think we got a pretty good constitution. We just have to actually realize it and give it to and promise it to everyone. But I think
Like
those words
acknowledge it, realize it, and potentialize it. That's something that we could be doing with our ethical and constitutional laws. I mean, of course, there's so many flaws in democracy, right? I mean, I would say that democracy at the moment is in crisis. Like,
sure.
look at all of these democratic countries having two-party system like the United States, even multiple party system like India, right? We see that there's always two parties in play. There's always polarization. So what is democracy if we're not able to have multiple parties multiple opinions out of which we could choose, why does it always have to be major consensus where we have two polar sides? So for you guys, Republicans, Democrats. For us, it's this party called BJP and Congress. So it's always two. Why not escape this duality? Why not have this multiplicity of parties out of which we can save democracy? I mean, also another thing that I keep on wondering is that we created democracy and communism and all of these systems back in the day. Why can't we create newer systems? You know, if we're able to, as humans, create newer systems of politics, of economy, of everything, maybe we might be able to achieve a system which is capable of taking care of everyone's needs, but at the same time making all of the law sense, all of the practical sense that it has to make, all of the constitutional sense it has to make. This is one of the problems of today's society, is that we're repeating what we have done already. Like these systems are old. We're in 21st century. We should be able to create newer systems. Why do we have to follow something that is from 18th century or 19th century? Why are we following, or still being inspired by the French Revolution? Like, why not make newer systems? And then people would logically ask you, how can we make newer systems? Well, how can you make a newer system? You take a number of people, you sit down with a pen and paper, and you try to think as to how can we make a newer system. It's not that hard. It just takes effort, and it takes a lot of people's uh, effort, and dedication towards making something like that happen. And that's why I say democracy is in crisis, because do we see any democratic country which is totally in peace? No. I mean, not to a higher degree. So we need to save democracy, or we need to create newer systems. And in order to do so, we need like minded people who are able to put in effort and do things that can constitutively make a lot of sense and benefits the citizens of the country.
Yeah, and when you say either make democracy again, or come up with a new, better way, I do entertain the thought that maybe getting the human element out of certain decisions is not only necessary but required in order for us to ford our way into the future and not annihilate ourselves or
Mhm.
make it so shitty, like with I'm just choose a different thing than climate change, because of I could do something more decisive. The fishing, the overfishing of the oceans. You know, doesn't matter where you are in the political spectrum. If you actually ob- take in the facts of the situation and the reality and the projections of the future, if we continue at this rate, that's not a good choice. That's not good. That doesn't, nobody's value system sees that and is like, this is fucking stupid. This is fucking a crisis. Um, so
By the way, I think we got some comments here. I didn't look at them yet.
well, just to finish that, if you maybe if if democracy was going to render, that's not a big problem. Let's continue on that. Then democracy isn't working in that case, because we're talking about, I mean, maybe also I think too sometimes that it's like that we get a little dramatic with that, because we're always thinking apocalypse. We're thinking about it killing like all humans, but maybe we've already done. I mean, we definitely have already like done some stuff and could continue to do some things to the planet, like really drastic. Like, what if life would continue without so much animal life being wiped out, and they're still like, I know the projections that seem soundly scientific of that we need this much biodiversity for so many cyclical systems, and I believe that. I guess I'm going to disengage from that because it's just like contemplating a nightmare situation where people are like kind of alive and we're able to sustain life in like these in these like certain very special compounds and underground fallout shelters and stuff. But yeah, never mind. So I'm gonna just disengage with that and say let's just not go there. Let's not go post-apocalyptic. Let's avoid it. I think everybody would want. I think pretty much everybody here wants that on the planet. There's a particular case or two with nations where it's like, but oh man, it's so fucking heavy and crazy that finding out that we're such sponges. Like you can have generations of humans that only know what they're allowed to know, and then they exist as an sort of, you could say, artificial intelligence, a guided intelligence. That's so horrific. That needs to be stopped. That needs to no longer be a practice. And so and then that comes into like, is there to be some sort of world order? We're already working on it. We have the Geneva Convention. We have rules for war, which nations don't follow always, but we're attempting that. And now we get back to the place that we're at as a species, where it's like, are we going to be able to navigate our way from distinct and warring nations to a planet that is working towards as close as it can get to a paradise loop? With robots.
I mean, one of the problems that we have is people complain a lot about capitalism and capitalistic ideations towards, whatever the companies are coming up with. I mean, it's not only about democracy and communism or any other kind of political sphere that you can adopt. It's also about capitalism, and I mean, I think communism can also come in there. We always complain about capitalist this, capitalist that. Why not create newer systems? This entire private property ownership, communism, Karl Marx thing, and then there's that. I mean, communism is like it's publicly shared, but capitalism is like, yeah, privately owned. Why not create newer ways to battle capitalism to an extent that it doesn't take too much out of a human, either monetarily or just just as sentience. That it shouldn't destroy human, the core of humanity, infused with economy and politics. Capitalism should be a way where people are owning private property, but at least capitalism is not eating them, and that's the problem with capitalism and people, because they keep on complaining that capitalism this, capitalism that, it's ruining our economy, it takes a lot of money, that this that. But why not enhance capitalism to an extent that it is mutually acceptable for everyone, that even if everyone is holding private properties, it's not taking a lot of economy, it's not sucking all of the economy in. So that could also be an antidote to our problem with capitalism.
Yeah, I think the big obvious thing is you just put a cap on certain things, like it, and yeah, because we're not infinitely motivated by the ceilingless, infinite possibilities of a larger number. It becomes abstract. This is very clearly documented. This is people stop being excited about that number at a certain point, and it becomes this giant abstraction. So if you just put a cap on it, and it could be a ridiculous cap, let's say 100 billion. After your 100 billionth and $1, the next you have $100 billion. The next one you earn does something where it's distributed to the most difficult, and not like just given to like to services or something. Just something like that even would revolutionize the place, because then there's totally gonna be people who are there's gonna be so many fucking people who are gonna like go over the cap. And maybe they'll do so with like really philanthropic intentions, or maybe they'll do so as a game because they'll keep track of their, over 10 billion, and that like, and maybe it's for purely egoic purposes, whatever. It's like why do we got all these treadmills and then all the machines at gyms. There's so many gyms in America, so many gyms. This is Planet Fitness one, and it's everywhere. And it's $20 a fucking month, and there's robot massagers in there, which is lovely. And there's all these people doing stuff with lifting things, and it's like, hook a battery up to that, generate power, And I think you could do the same thing with people's egos. Like, this one needs to be continually applauded and praised, and so it's going to keep doing that. Well, how do we have it so that that's generating energy? I think that like just having capitalism with just a ridiculous cap, not a small cap, but like something like $100 billion. Folks who have $100 billion, right? Maybe not 100 billion just yet. We're getting there. But I mean, even 10. Come on, 10. You have 10 billion fucking dollars. 10 billion. What can you not do with 10 billion? Buy a country?
I mean, another problem with capitalism today is that we have lower class, then we have upper class. I'll give you an example of Russia, right? Maybe I won't be as succinct as possible with the Russia scenario, but what it seems to me is that even eliminate that country, that there's an entire class of people who are from the low economy, and then there's entirely another one which is rich and higher class. Then what's happening with the middle class here? The middle class is what is suffering from this disease of capitalism. That's why they keep on projecting all sorts of things about, oh yeah, capitalism is bad, it's eating us, economy is going down, GDP this, GDP that. But the richer are getting richer and the poorer are getting poorer. What about that? There's of course a complaint coming from the middle class, but what about the lower class? Lower class getting lower and lower, and then richer getting richer and richer. You were talking about $10 million. Like, there's people out there who have $10 million and they're doing nothing. Billions, they're not doing nothing. I mean, not everyone is Elon Musk and actually putting all the money in and being like, okay, yeah, no, I can actually make something out of this $1 billion. There's people out there who have billions of dollars and they're doing absolutely nothing, and then with the lower class, they're literally struggling to have a bread on their table. So why not can we have this structure where the lower economy is coming into middle lower class, and that the upper economy are taxated to a level that they are becoming middle upper class? We need that. Otherwise, there's going to be like all these sorts of fluctuations and we won't be able to get anywhere. So, it's always a problem with class, economic class, and it's a catastrophe.
I seen a thing of in India a particular skyscraper that is surrounded by slums, and that there's people who have to fall asleep at their workstation who see this skyscraper that apparently like a guy, like a family, like lives there. Is this a well, no, that's all I can recall from it. But like, I know that we got a guy who's got a building or two. He was president for a bit. And back to intelligence. Oh, this is all part of intelligence. Is like, okay, is having a situation and systems that facilitate this way we're choosing to host reality, the musical, the festival, is this what we would decide? And if smartness, if intelligence is being able to figure out how to enact what your will, then it's like, are we an intelligent species? Because this is fucking this sucks. And it doesn't suck for the people who are winning. You'd want to say, but no, that's the big disagreement that I have, and that's why I'm no longer like eat the rich. I wouldn't call myself a leftist. I wouldn't. It sucks for them. It sucks. It sucks. It comparatively sucks. This could be way. We could have a way better. We would be having a much happier reality when there isn't this. Get the fuck away from my shit. Get the fuck away from my shit. I need your shit because I don't have anything on my own. Fucking. I don't know. I made the lower class Gollum. Sorry, but like myself, like being like I would like to have more opportunities and resources. God damn it! It's like get the fuck away from mine. Get the fuck. I'm not putting myself in a situation where there's somebody saying get the fuck away from my things, but it's kind of like what is the way it's situated is there's the people with the aggregate resource like cream rising to the top situation. It's not a meritocracy. It being a meritocracy, would that even be the best? Would that be the very best we could do? That sounds way better. That's a great improvement to me, and I'm for that, making it as much of a meritocracy as possible. But it's like, can there come a day where we're not so Darwinian? I mean, we've done it. We're the dominant species of the planet. We've done it. We've got it. We've taken it to an extent where we have nukes. We've got it. We've won violence. Okay, we've got it. So can we chill? Can we? Because I think we want to chill. I think that I really do think that we want to chill. Except some of the old, because it is the old way to not be chill. I think we can be chill now.
I think it's also a thing with value system, right? Like you were talking about will before. So, Friedrich Nietzsche, when he was writing Will to Power, which was not supposed to be published, by the way, because he realized that there could never be an objective value system. And his sister, Elizabeth, actually took all of his notes and published Will to Power anyway to kind of like further the Nazi propaganda. But when you just take a value system and implement it into the society that we currently have, we don't necessarily have a very succinct value system. There's ethics and then there's morality. People are not able to distinguish both of them. So, you can understand ethics as a communal thing, and you can understand morality as an individualistic thing. So morals would be, oh, am I doing this thing good? Am I doing this right? It's my own, psychical evaluation of what the situation is. And then the ethical code is what is good for the community. Now, the state of human condition that we are in now, we think that something is ethically right, but then we take our morality and we impose it onto the ethics in order to complicate it to an extent that we can further our needs and our intention. So what we're also seeing now is that when it comes to value systems in a communal background, so basically ethics, people are imposing morality upon ethics in order to make it so jumbling, for the lack of the better words, that a person cannot necessarily understand what the intention is, but yet the intention is being put forward. So what we need right now is a perfect ethical value system, which is distinct from our own personal morality as a bias.
Or one that allows for things to be jumbled and for things to and for there to be disparate patches of certain values taking hold. I think making space and encouraging that is how we get the best future. I think that the people who are all about decentralization are on to something. I just have the question of, when everybody's super decentralized, like, just how are we going to stop some of these things now with some of the potentials of AI, and say having a gain of functions lab for some sort of virus that isn't supposed to do what it exists to do, but then ends up doing that. We need to avoid things like that. And so, and then my mind goes straight to, we need a benevolent world order. And which is why I can no longer fault those who are, it seems like there's numerous attempts to have some sort of varyingly benevolent world order. I mean,
Sure.
I'm sure there's clubs that are taking a crack at it, that they don't care if it's benevolent, they just want it to be their order. And then I got numerous friends who think that they're snake people, and that they need to drink the blood of the children. So, like, I don't think that doesn't check out with all my experiences of humanity, of that it's so rare that there's somebody who is authentically, I'm evil for the sake of evil. I mean, there's a goth club, which you should experience when you come here, the Leland City Club, where you can see people being gothy and evil looking, evil presenting, for the sake of funsies or attractiveness, which I'm all about. That's fun. But doing wrong for the sake of wrong, for I'm evil, for I don't know, I don't see it. And I think that if I do, that it's super rare. Anyway, yeah, I go from decentralized to world order real quick in my thinking, because it's like, yeah, decentralized as fuck, but there would need to be some overarching thing to make sure that you don't have, there's so many things that could happen with AI where it's just exponential, and it's just out of control, and before you know it, there's a drone swarm that's not listening. you know or the gain of functions, that thing, like there needs to be some planetary rules of don't end the planet. But then, if that can be established, hopefully as benevolently as possible, though, humans, then I think decentralized is the best way to avoid this mass psychosis situations that we've got going on, like in the US with the left right thing and stuff. Like, I see that as a mass psychosis. I think I see it ruining people's lives. I see it like just crushing people's families, just making a life that could be, and could have, not just could, it's not over, it could be pleasant, but we're clawing at each other's authenticity. Like, some people gravitate towards this and that. Sometimes it's generational, and it's just, you grew up surrounded by this team. But there's people who are authentically conservative. Like, I have friends that are politically leftist, liberal, and they are, in my observation of what it really is to be like, they're very conservative. They're very, like, we like to do things a certain way around here, and I want them to exist in the way that they are. There's ways to do some software troubleshooting. There's psychedelics. You can do some stuff where you can change. But what if people don't want to change and they want to be themselves? But do we have to be at each other's throats about the way we perceive things, or can we leverage that for being this mechanism by which we come up with the smartest compromises based on both value systems? But the value, back to the value system thing, I think that's the answer, is like, you just have to be able to have pockets. This community, making the world this really diverse menu of, like, I want to spend some time in Japan. In my life, I really want to spend some time specifically in Japan for what I observe to be, like, I see the things about it that are that where I would want to break free from at times, but the hyper considerate, hyper polite, it sounds very peace inducing to be just in that exact vibe. Like, I don't know. I observe the vibe to be one that I would like to exist in for a while. But then I want to fucking go to somewhere where I can be a flamboyant and fucking obnoxious sinner. I want different things at different times. But some people want the same thing their whole life. And I want them to be able to have that option. I want there to be a Salt Lake City, Utah, and I want there to be a Delhi and a Detroit and a Tulum and an Amsterdam and a London and a Berlin and a Cairo but I just hope that the way that those metropolises are existing and functioning is, I would like it to be democratic. I would like it to be what people are choosing, it based on choices as opposed to mandates from the past. But that's my value system.
I mean, you're not completely wrong about my mass psychosis. I think we, as human civilization, at this current point, we're all under mass psychosis. On Joe Rogan's podcast, this Dr. Malone came in, Robert Malone, and he was, his Twitter account got banned, and he effectively started talking about this mass psychosis that's been happening within our community. Now, you can take this into a COVID context, or you could take it to any kind of political context, actually. Um, and this mass psychosis is happening because people are just wondering as to what the fuck is really going on about a particular situation. And when that particular situation comes in, as I said before, people are not able to distinguish between facts and opinions. And if you're not able to distinguish between both of those, people are just like, what the fuck is even happening, And that creates mass psychosis because we have no idea as to how to tackle this entire situation in front of us, because this flowing of information that we don't even know which is misinformation, which is disinformation, which is actual information. So mass psychosis is definitely a symptom of 21st century and currently the human condition as we are, right now. Um, and it's a huge issue. It's a huge, huge issue. And so is censorship. So is censorship. I mean, taking down accounts of Maxwell trial with more than 500,000 followers on Twitter, taking down accounts of Dr. Robert Malone, more than
On the Maxwell trial? That happened?
yeah, the Maxwell trial tracker. There was a account on YouTube which was tracking everything that was happening with Maxwell trial, and Twitter took that account down. Why? We don't know. Why that censorship happened? We don't know. Dr. Robert Malone, he said something about mRNA vaccine. Account is suspended. Right wing politics people, they say something, accounts are suspended. So censorship now has become a huge real problem because we are limiting free speech. And when you limit free speech, people find ways to make that speech happen anyway. So Donald Trump, right? You took Donald Trump off Twitter thinking that, okay,
I did
now
that.
this.
I
I
did that.
mean, you know what I mean.
Remember the moment I
Like
put the
people.
enter key, like in a 90s hackers movie. I just like put in the code and I send it. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
So with Donald Trump, right, his account gets suspended, and now he even this podcast called Nelk Boys podcast, Full Send. They got Donald Trump's interview on there. YouTube took it down in like, I don't know, one day, maybe 30 minutes, something like that. And now they have to post it on their own official site so that it doesn't get actually taken down. So we're censoring, people who want to voice certain opinions. Yes, it could be disinformation. Yes, it could be misinformation. But still, we are suppressing what I would call actual speech, and people will always find a way to articulate that speech. They will make new apps, so like Getter for right-wing people. They will make newer websites. You can take Alex Jones' example here, him having his own platform, Infowars, and him being able to articulate his speech freely without getting censored. So in any case, we're having speech being, di- displayed. Now, what happens with major platforms like Twitter and Facebook and all of these major, Instagram, whatever, they are the major parties which are using all sorts of users. Like they have maximum users. Like most of the people are on that platform. And so the major consensus comes out of those users which are on these major platforms. But they're devoid of all of the opinions that there actually are. So one could say that it's somewhat biased
Yeah.
what we're getting.
Stunts our
We are
intelligence.
being fed into left wing liberal political ideas, and the right wing political conservative ideas are being suppressed
That's in
because
certain
it,
spaces, though. I gotta say that's in certain spaces. It's the opposite in other places, and spaces. I know that like the airwaves of entertainment there's pockets. There's so much in America where you can be in a right wing milieu entirely.
I mean, someone here commented that Twitter is a private company. They don't need to follow free speech. Completely right. Terms and conditions of Twitter is private, and so they can, of course, deplatform anyone they want. But again, when there's a major app which is of course privately owned and which tends to display most of the news that we get today, you take someone who's an active president at that time, January 6th, he was active president. You take his account down. Yes, I know that you took that account down for good reasons, but at the same time, that implied that now we're giving power to technocracy. Now we're giving power to the big tech who's going to make decisions as to who gets to say what, who gets to have an account, who gets to deliver their free speech. I'm not saying that Donald Trump did a brilliant job with January 6th. Of course, he did not. Then, that decision was right. But at the same time, people need to see the pros and the cons, because every time you see something like that, there's pros and cons. And this Donald Trump thing happened with his account taken down, and then I saw most of these left right wing political accounts getting suspended because they said something or they questioned something. It's like questioning something in 21st century is getting us deplatformed. I'm not, of course, there's a private company, of course, they have terms and conditions, but if we're using as a collective society these apps to a higher degree, then we do need some sort of an autonomy to be able to understand as to what the fuck is really going on in the world. What are different opinions? What is happening? If everything is filtered, if everything is biased, then what even is the news that we're getting out of Twitter or Facebook or whatever? I mean, Meta now, you know it's a dilemma almost.
I'm bored to death with that conversation, though. I've just heard it so much. Not bored to death with you and your take on it, but I've just heard that just so much. Just all the contemporary American controversies. They're just so. I know each side's retort. I know I've watched the tennis match so many times. But how that relates back to intelligence, both censoring people and censoring yourself, it's stunting our intelligence. Our intelligence has to be the full breadth of what everybody thinks and says, and and then and if you have faith in us, then you know that we'll. But we need to be aware that you need to there's some stuff you need to nip in the bud. There's some stuff that you need that you need to combat every time you see it. Any sort of like actual racism, like somebody making an argument for their or just expressing that they have a value of keeping people distinct is one thing. Like I mentioned, Japan. I would like there to be a distinct culture of Japan that goes into the future. But if any any utterance that you value keeping people distinct through separation, or anything suggesting that like people that people having that keeping just purity, any ethnic purity stuff, that to me is a scourge. And
I mean, we're actively filtering ourselves, right? Like, even on social media, given the cancel culture, like if I was supposed to tweet right now, right, and it's somewhat related to politics or I don't know, some sports or whatever the fuck, I'm tweeting it out, and then I reread the tweet just to make sure that it's okay for me to post that, and if it doesn't have that particular editing of mine, then maybe I'll get canceled. So we are actively filtering ourselves according to the norms, according to the biases that the social media platforms, the technocracy or the big tech has put forth. So even that happens, and it's crazy because then our own free speech, our own original, authentic ideas are not getting out because there's a filtering system, because we're abiding by the societal laws that we cannot say this word, we cannot say that, we cannot support this kind of thing. But okay, if I'm having an original and authentic idea, which might not be abidable by whatever agenda there is for me to follow to tweet it, then why am I even thinking about something authentic without, then who am I, if not someone who is biased completely by what the big tech has, given us? Honestly, even I'm kind of bored of this conversation. You want to talk about psychedelics?
Yeah. I mean, the summation of that to the topic is censorship. I do think stunts our intelligence, but then it's like, okay, so the way we can pivot from that, but not just completely jettison it and just like people self censor in your mind. Mind policing is, I think, actually, sometimes it's like it's pruning. It's like, not going to let myself think about this thing that puts me in a shitty loop all day. So I'm going to, in a way, you could say, censor my mind. Like my mind is knee jerking, bringing up this. It's like, no, we're going to think about that. That I wouldn't say is stunting intelligence, but just not allowing yourself to ever consider or acknowledge or express the negative, that stunts your intelligence, both your demonstrated applied intelligence and your cognitive power as a scout, to not. And I see it more and more, and it's spooky, it's creepy sometimes when I have these experiences now where I see the way a human's face goes when they don't want to connect with or observe and absorb, and they don't want to factor into their reality what is observable in front of them, or it was just said is different, because it'd be like, well, you're wrong or you're a liar. But sometimes I see this moment where it's like, I'm not going to, and usually there's a blink and it's this, that's not real, that's not, nope, and
Mm-hmm.
and on the mass level, that's cognitive dissonance that is kind of necessary to keep the lights on right now, right? Because if we didn't have a certain level of cognitive dissonance to some of our pending problems, which I'm optimistic about, I think that if we gave proper attention to our solvable problems, so we have a bunch of unsolvable problems like the human condition and stuff, which could be optimized a lot better. But anyway, I think that if we gave proper attention to optimizing things around here, we're gonna be good. The problem is the same problem that I have as an individual. I'm ruminating in the past a lot. I'm not here with what I could do right now. I'm limited. I limit myself in moments, and I'm getting better at this. Perhaps I'm getting close to some huge moment, but I think the one thing about maturing is stop looking for the huge Hail Mary, the huge leap. Like, just be progressing. Getting a little bit more present every day.
By
But
the way, look at the private chat.
yeah. Where was this takes us back to the this goes to an Illuminati place. The ability to live for hundreds of years or multiple lifetimes is the only thing that makes the gain of functions or perpetual greed make sense, says Ron Verse. I don't. That's another thing that has become just incredibly. It's boring until there's some revelation about it, and being as it's out of my arena to affect. It's like the Maxwell trial and things of that. Like, clearly, there is something up. There is something rotten Denmark. There is something fucking fucked going on, and people being protected, right, with that. But being as nothing that I could shout into the ether of the internet, I feel is going to unlock that. And there's plenty people curious about it and digging that I am waiting for something to be revealed about that, and maybe it will be something that, like I just said about the people who like these moments of blinking, like that's not real, but that's not what their face says. They'll just be like, I love pumpkin spice, and just but that those I do think that I'm, if I may brag of my humility, which is an oxymoron. If I could be braggadocious about how fucking humble I am, I think that upon finding something out about like our reptilian overlords or something like that, that I, upon it being observed and confirmed, I would be like, okay, shit, I need to reorganize the way I think about the world. But as of now, that it does not seem obvious. What it seems like to me, in terms of the powers that are, is that it's so human, and I've seen the range of humans pretty intimately in my life. Not super intimately. I've never been like best buds with a tyrant. I've never had a buddy that I just go over hang out. It's like, yeah, and he's got that thing in the basement where there's a bunch of people captive, and it's like, I've never been that, like, I'm not that, but I've been I've observed the seeds of evil in myself that I didn't follow. I've and certain things in the past, some things that have happened in my peripheral. But yeah, I'm not like going on walk and talks in the woods with any serial killers, but like I've known humans, and I just think it's that taken to extremes and involving politics and big money and stuff, and 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 I hope that it gets fucking that we learn to actuate accountability. I hope that we become more intelligent in our collective capacity to nix some shit. You gotta be negative about some fucking things. Anything coercion, anything where there's humans, any captivity, anything like that, anything with you're done. You're done. You can't do it, and here's why. Here's what we did to the last ones, sort of thing. But I tire of talking about evil. What are we?
I mean, we can conclude by saying that humanity needs more love. We need more love. We need more kindness. We need more gratitude. And if we don't have these things incorporated in our life 24/7, then of course there's going to be catastrophes. But there should be an emphasis on having gratitude and kindness and love towards not only people but also our environment. and also within ourselves, also within our intrinsic selves.
Yeah, we're not an intelligent species if we fucking wreck the planet trying to get resources out of it. That's not intelligent.
Exactly.
So we need yeah, and modeling intelligence. Like, I would fucking love to see intelligence being the coolest thing there is. But back to the mainstream, the idea of the mainstream. The mainstream is its most noticeable quality is its accessibility. It requires very little entrance fee or qualifications. That's why it can be main, because it's there, it's right there, it's low hanging fruit. Um, but back to kindness is intelligence. I would love to see it would be, and there's something that is like doesn't feel as cool and edgy and sexy to be like the thing that's mainstream cool as it does to be like the, the more avant-garde, off the beaten path, all the words for, special little rebel. But I would fucking love to see kindness become cool and trending, because I don't give a fuck about it's not just that I give a fuck is the wrong words. I don't want to spend my life thinking about lots and lots of people. I don't. I'll do that as a thing, like if that's helpful and I observe that it can be, then I would do that. But that's not how I want to spend my time. That's not fun. That's not, because it's not intimate. And intimate is the main special thing, I'd say, of life. Like that's, and being just always thinking, well, if I wake up and I'm in the marketplace of ideas, and it's like, I don't want to be in the marketplace of ideas. I want to be a human goddamn being. And sometimes I want to be even a stranger and more divinely, like, can't help but be authentic thing. Sometimes I just like to experience being this creature, this not thinking, not strategizing about, it would be better if more people thought this way. I don't want to be engaged in that. God, I want more time in scout mode. I want more time in just like creature mode. I want to have my friends and us have this super inside joke, fucking really, intimate, the things that happen in closed groups of friends, like close group and sometimes closed groups, because at some point it's like, now we've gotten so esoteric with the way we communicate to each other, like the deep sarcasm and friendship, and the just like, I know exactly what you're saying, and it's ridiculous how you're able to encode it to me through comedy and stuff, like just things like that's the stuff of life. I want that. I don't want to do this shit too much and then that's what makes me think maybe I don't want to do it at all. And that's the kick that I was on during the pandemic. I was like, do I not want to do talking stuff on the internet, or like be on stage is another thing, because the Etch a Sketch shakes. And as long as nobody recorded you on your phone, then it's like, you're just like this memory to some people, and a slippery memory sometimes, most of the time, like, but then but anyway, this thing on the internet where there's a receipt for the things that I've said and stuff like that, at a time where people are hyper judgmental to a pathological intelligence stunting place, where it's like, I'm going to have this judgment voice in my head be limiting my scout experience and my expression experience, and just like, and now I kind of fucking have bad thoughts about humans as a whole because of what it's doing. The internet, man, like, you really gotta pick. You really gotta, like, and so I was thinking when the lockdowns were happening, I was really considering, like, maybe I definitely don't want to be any kind of public with, whilst I was actually doing podcasts like this, but that number says 3. There's 3 people listening. That's okay. That's intimate. But like the thing where there's lots and lots of people and they're judging. I'm like, I know people want it and I want it for certain reasons. I want it for certain things that could come from that. But there's a huge trade-off there because I do not want to spend a lot of my life thinking about, am I being things like that. Am I being an example? Because that's fucking the definition of inauthentic fake. Ron Verse says, I'm scouting you guys right now. You in scout mode, bro? You scouting?
Wait, can we have this, like, when we upload this on YouTube, can the chat, like, be live?
I don't know. And I'm not going to say I don't care, but I'm not going to make an effort from this because I'm getting close to scout mode myself, which I could be. I'll go into scout mode a little bit for the last thing I would like to accomplish with this podcast, which is now at 2 hours, is I would like to see if we have a co-intelligence enough for you to communicate to me the C3 mental model of intelligence and for me to draw it upon this whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
So describe that to me. So I'm not just drawing. I mean, because it would be easy just to be like, put a line and then have that. But do that as well. But then explain it to me as I write the magic words.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you should go for it.
What do you mean, go for it?
Go over the board.
I'm gonna do it in green. Okay.
I actually might put, if you give me the video of this, I want to post it on my podcast as well because this was a really good one.
Okay, cool. Wish we would have got your microphone going, but that's okay. But that's a problem that's going to be solved by proximity. That's going to be a great thing about your being here in reality with me, with the microphone and the mixing board and the headphones and the whole deal. Because these things are going to sound real nice. Because I like to go to bed listening to podcasts sometimes, and I like it when I get to hear this perspective. Okay, I don't want to talk about audio quality right now. C3, mental model of intelligence. What is intelligence? Tell me again.
Connection, creation, comprehension. Connection can be abstraction as well.
All right. So
Capacity for abstraction.
Capacity for abstraction and ability to make connections.
And creation.
That's the one I got, right? Because I made a song the other day I'm really proud of. Okay, capacity for abstraction and creation is one. Next one.
So capacity for abstraction, capacity for creation, and capacity for connection.
Connection.
Oh, sorry, comprehension. So capacity for abstraction, capacity of creation, and capacity of comprehension.
Give an example of specifically comprehending as opposed to making connections. When you've effectively comprehended like this. Do I comprehend this yet? How do we test? My capacity for abstraction and creation, connection, and comprehension. I almost feel like comprehension comes first because you gotta do you understand the stuff in front of you?
Yeah. So you create, you comprehend, and then you abstract or connect.
Some people don't create, though, right? Everybody's creative. You're on the everybody's.
Everyone has a capacity for creation, but only a few actually are able to authentically create.
As in, true creativity, as in not remixing pre-existing ideas. I don't understand what that would even be. I think that the closest you could come is like an abstract painter, perhaps.
Yeah, but that's authentic in itself, right? Because it's abstract.
Yeah. But like when I like with poetry and songs and stuff, it's like it's weird to say that you're doing true creativity or you have a list of sounds. You could generate your specific sound with your voice or your way of plucking or strumming, hitting the thing. But you've got paints. And then I even think it with paints, it's like you're not creating shapes. Those have existed. You could create something so weird, so unique, so chaotic that it's like it never existed before, but it's made up of things that we can describe. That's a line, that's a blob, that's a that, that's a like in true creativity to generate. I feel like one of the things that I find very, very interesting about having a human brain and having experienced DMT several times is the times with that where I could not have. I feel like I would not be able to understand an image such as the one that I am seeing. And right now, too, that's the thing. You can get to a point with that where it's like, all right, that is kind of the underlying, the dream stream. But when it does the fractals and the geometric patterns that are just so complex or so like that feels like true creativity in a way. It feels like, but it's like because it's so complex and that's one you haven't experienced that one, but you've been on mushrooms and stuff. You've been on mushrooms. You've had cascading
I had a
visuals.
very terrible mushroom trip, and it wasn't horrible. It was just like I was in Amsterdam and I took like 15 grams of truffles, and it was very cold, and I'm not good with cold environments. So I ate all of them all at once, and I also smoked some hashish and cannabis, completely legal there in Amsterdam. And I went out to the Walden Park, and on my way, I start puking like a motherfucker. And that happens because it was expected. Like some of my friends were like, "Yeah, you're gonna puke." And then I started tripping, but I wasn't feeling well. It was probably because of the cold environment and me wearing like all sorts of fucking clothes. And I go to this park and I'm just like seeing like slight visuals, like, the grass is breathing and the sun is shining, the lights. Um, and the pigeons around me seem very beautiful. But then I started walking back all the way to my hostel, and I went to my bed and I closed my eyes, and I had these beautiful closed eye visuals. And then I slept and I woke up. I think I wouldn't necessarily consider it as a good trip, but something which I can reflect upon, especially given the closed eye visuals that I had. So I am yet to experience 5 grams of cubensis and dark atmosphere, as Terence McKenna would say. I have to do that. And also DMT and mescaline are two other compounds that I would definitely love to try.
All this can be arranged, and it's like I can genuinely say that my experience with all psychedelia has brought me to this place now of that I'm not terribly interested in more experiences that I don't know what I can draw from that. But then I also hearing myself say that that sounds fucking lame. Just because that means that it's like, wait, you're going to deny yourself pure scout mode, just like some of these things that you can see with your eyes closed. And then I can, I can see them, starting to take form now, and just, completely soberly, I can um, imagine them and be seeing it with the imagination. But man, the cascading fractals, it's so pretty, if nothing else. It's so pretty, and it's so, and this and the whoa, that's in me. That's I'm not gazing upon something in the world, and then it always comes back to what's the difference between looking out at the world and looking into your mind, and how that goes. And what interests me most these days is like the life, yeah, realizing, actuating the life that could happen, and the save the world stuff is like that I can get compelled about that in the instances, or if I all I need to be convinced of is that there is that it's there's something that can be done that's worth doing, that that I specifically can be a part of enacting that. Um, and that I would say is the applicable intelligence thing. Am I smart? Well, am I empowered by it? But then I don't want to be addicted to power. I don't want,
Power is the worst drug in history.
as in like it sucks, like it's no fun, or like it does bad stuff.
It does bad stuff because you have so much control.
Yeah, people don't seem to just like be like, all right, that's the amount of power that I want, And I feel like that's like, so that makes me confident in humanity having a chance here, because I exist, and I really want to cap it off as far as with power.
There was this comedian here in India, Kunal Kamra, and he asked me, what is the worst drug ever? And I was like, PCP. And then he goes like, no, it's power.
Have you experienced
Power
PCP?
is the worst drug ever.
Have you experienced
Because you
PCP?
have, sorry?
Have you experienced PCP?
No.
Okay,
I mean,
'cause
I've done DXM, which people say that if you do it in higher doses, it's like PCP. But no, I haven't done PCP, and nor do I plan to.
I've been told that PCP is a dissociative, that it's like smoking ketamine, which like that with the way PCP was propagandized to me, it was like real bad. Like you're punching mailboxes. You're
Yeah, so it's DXM. Like if you have enough of DXM, like maybe 1.5 bottle down, it's like PCP. It's so disassociative, and you also kind of hallucinate. Like I've only hallucinated and had a dissociative effect, but nothing more than that.
Anyway, back to the comedian says that the drug of power. You're on that. You said PCP, and I just wanted to see if you were like actually, because I've never even had somebody be able to like describe it to me in a way that seemed to make sense. But I remember being told through media things that it's the one that makes you get naked and punch mailboxes, which apparently isn't very true.
Zakery, I have a class in 5 minutes, so I'm very unfortunately will have to end this podcast.
Like abruptly, immediately.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the class, it would keep going. But this was one of the most interesting conversations I've had in a good amount of time.
And it ended so gracefully too. We landed the ship so intelligently, and so we really tied it all together at the end. All right. I am so excited to go into scout mode and have breakfast. I'm stoked. Bye-bye, everybody.
Happy reality.
Happy reality and a merry existence to you all.